Hey there, Jen here. I know you're looking at black screen, so let me pull something up for you real quick and share a screen and kind of just chat for a minute. This is semi-unplanned. I wanted to do a video and I decided to smash these topics together, and I know I'm late on this first topic. Again, I don't have TikTok, so I hear about these things a little late. I'm I try to stay away from trending culture, but aside from the symbolism, now a lot of us who have been on YouTube watching, learning, researching, and then making our own content since about 2009, the beginning, most of us at this point have read the letter from Albert Pike. So I'm not here to crack on anyone else's religion. I do believe in freedom of religion as long as somebody else's religion doesn't include the ending of sentient beings, especially en masse. But that's probably another. Well, that's kind of this video. So, anyways, moving forward, I kind of lose my train of thought when I look at like the numbers and nobody being here. It makes me nervous. Sorry. So I'm not here to crack on anyone else's religion, but there are the powers that be, those who think they pull the strings, and they usually do because they hand down their money through these practices. And oftentimes, when we hear words like evil spirits, we think, oh, woo woo, or ghost hunters, or unreal type of, mythology. And we don't think of it on like a frequency type of level. So they have this system, this quote unquote reincarnation system, and Christ did speak of this. So I do believe that it exists, but I do not believe that it is quote unquote the way, or maybe the right way, or maybe it's not the only way or the main way. Now, hear me when I say this for the people who follow Christ and follow my channel. Um, and I hate that word, follow. Those of you who are kind enough to share your time with me. Um, while there are things I believe that are true in regards to that, and to, oh geez, the Temple of Set and the Skull and Bones, and it's all intertwined, the Masons and the alleged Satanists, or whatever you want to call them, the Luciferians, and even Buddhism. It's all this serpentine type of worship and movement with your body. And it leans into the charismatic movement, which is in Christianity. And in this time, in these times, again, if you were here since the beginning, since about 2009, and you've been researching, you've probably read Albert Pike's letter about what he wanted, or what they foresaw was going to happen at this time. And they want, get out of my closet, little girl. Get out of there. They get peanut butter and they act like it's crack or something. They just go crazy. Anyways, um, he predicted, or what the Masonic Lodge planned, was that there would be a holy war. And the Masons, I guess, are in good with the Muslims on this point. Now, that's why I wanted to talk about this now. Again, I might be a little late for the trending part of this video, the Nicki Minaj aspect, but I'm talking about it because we're in a time when they want to bring ecumenicalism, to the forefront. And I'm not saying that that's bad or good. My point is that everybody should have a choice into what they participate in, and into what happens to their body and their spirit and their mind and their soul. Um, Everybody has the inherent right from their creator to informed consent. And so if you can't remember it, or it's manipulated, it's not informed. And so I believe in exposing that part of these agendas, the control aspect, the manipulation of one's free will and agency, which we are supposed to have. And so I wanted to talk about this because as soon as I saw these pictures, and I'm going to switch screens now for a minute. As soon as I saw these images, especially this one, can you see where the mouse is now? I don't know if you can see, but especially this one, with the girl reading, and then you have this other girl here, and then a couple of girls are holding drinks. Now, if you are a woman from Gen X or on after, or before, actually, we all heard stories of like etiquette school for women and etiquette school where women learned how to be ladies and were taught manners. That was the school or education that women were allowed to have. So since we were little, we've been playing around in heels and playing dress up, and we've been doing poses like this without ever questioning where these ideas come from or why we're doing these things. Now, again, I'm going to slide into this being part of the agenda. So, as soon as I saw these poses, and I'm not a Buddhist, I don't practice Buddhism, and I don't participate in yoga. I never have. I like Pilates, it's entirely different. But I'm going to now go back to, we're going to toggle back to these Buddhist gods and goddesses, these symbols, and these shapes that people contort their bodies into when they participate in things like yoga. And so here you have their pantheon, right? You have all of their different beings, all of their different little G gods. I find it interesting that a lot of them are blue, like Avatar, and we're seeing a lot of that recently, with a lot of things being blue. Speaking of strange things, did you see the meeting with Putin and Trump? I have to say, I used to think, like, I used to really admire him, and I used to think he was a good looking man. And I'm not saying he's not good looking now, but and I hate to sound crazy, but he doesn't look like the same person. Like, he doesn't look like he used to look. And there was this one really awkward moment when they were surrounded by the press, and their people were saying, "Go, go." And Putin looked at one of the reporters and he contorted his face. And I got this really uncanny valley vibe. And I used to really like Putin. Like, I was like, man, for a leader, he's kind of good looking, right? And he's strong and vibrant. And I saw him at this meeting and I'm like, okay, that face didn't look like something a human would do. It looked like something you would see that robot Sophia do if she had skin. Like his eyebrows and his nose just got, I don't know, guys. Like I'll have to find it and see if anyone has just a clip of that. But it was strange. If you have a chance to check it out, just watch that little press part. I think it's on Forbes. I'm pretty sure I shared it. Okay, so back to this. So I've never participated, but I knew as soon as I saw these pictures floating around that I had to come and look. And this is quite seriously the first website that came up. And lo and behold, where is it? I think it's this one right here. Yeah, that's the same one as this one. The one with the arrows, see how he's holding the cup, or she, whatever we got going on here, androgyny again. And then you have the one leg up, and they're sitting like this because they're actually sitting on a sleeping boar. Okay, so now we're going to go down here. Now, if you go back to this real quick, we're just going to take a quick look. That's exactly what this looks like. All these girls. Now, again, I'm not going to say I didn't do the same thing. I played around in heels when I did wear them. And in another life, I was very Babylonian. And so, I've done things like this to see, can you stretch? How good of a stretcher are you? And I was in gymnastics and dance and all that stuff. All right, so we're going to get back to the Buddhist symbols. Now, I think my guess is that it's this one right here with the arrow and the light pink. So we're going to float down here and see what we got. This one. It might be, is that one on this one is not on a boar. Okay, wow, there's two that have the one leg up. One has the one arm down, like Baphomet, with this hand with a cup. Okay, and this one has like food or something. Now, I had guessed that it was this one, but it might be this one. So let's just float down all the way and make sure what we're looking at. Why do they have them all doing that same pose? It's not like that a lot. That's why there's like a gang load here. Like their pantheon is like multiple. It's legion, guys. Like it's quite literally legion. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh my, that one's kind of creepy. Who is capable of fixing on negative vibes, curses, barriers, or malicious intent. Her wrathful look. Okay, they don't really look wrathful, none of the girls. They look like they're awakening, triumph over victory in the face of adversity. See, I still think they're being this one. What do you guys think? Is anyone here? Is there anyone here? Hey there. Do you guys think, do you have a guess? I don't know, because the girls aren't actually sitting on anything unless that's a spiritual bull. So it might have to be one of the above ones. Let's just make sure we look at all of them. That one's dancing, so that doesn't count. Green color. This one is green, like like reptilians. Great. I thought they were all blue. This is interesting. Vitality and strength in Buddhism. Oh, check this out. There's that number, guys. Aha, I bet you it's this one. Kari Ravini Tara, because she looks pleasant. She has the one leg up. She's not really holding anything. Some of the girls are holding things, some aren't. Okay, but they are sitting like most of them are chilling, right? Like the vibe is like they're trying to look chill. So she sits in a royal ease, and we know that the 22nd or 22 is a really big number. And I've related that to why I think I know these people, and I'm going to get into that just briefly as to it pertains to this topic. So she sits in a royal ease stance on a white moon disc. Interesting. And that's my deal. Like they're going to try and bring all this together because of the Albert Pike plan or whatever. They want to have their holy war, and they're probably going to get it, to be honest, with the way people like Andrew Tate are working young men up. The Muslims are always, it seems like, okay with that, and Christian men are, I don't want to say, you have like this new breed of Christian man, and then that they're like the lumberjacks, right? And they're gun toters, and so they're probably gonna influence a lot of people. And what I can't figure, and you even have like things like the Denver airport, right, with the old mural, which they covered up, and they also got rid of the Georgia Guidestones. Why do you think they did that, guys? They're getting rid of evidence. They were warning us by showing us the Georgia Guidestones. They were warning us of their plans. When they destroyed it, it's because they're carrying out that plan right now with depopulation worldwide. And people behind the scenes are working together. All the nations, all the religions, pretty much the same thing, because they all end up, at the end of the day, they worship the same thing. Now, I can see charismatic Christians coming into this Buddhism because I have friends that it's happened to. I went to a church briefly, once, basically, local. And again, God has taken me to all the churches, but this was way back in 2012 when we lived across the street in this apartment complex. And the guy that owns everything around here, he's like, he doesn't live here. He's not local. He's very entitled. He wears a lot of jewelry. He's like guys my mom knew, like old school Dagos, but he's like no bigger than me. And he went to this church. And when people get taken by this charismatic spirit, it is a lot in look and presentation, like the Kundalini spirit, the spirit of the snake. Now, again, I'm not here to crack your religion per se. I am going to say all you have to do is watch these people, and you can see Santeria, you can see voodoo, charismatics, and Buddhism. It is all starting to look the same. Now, I'm not going to say that one world religion is a bad idea. It would be cool if we were on the same page. The problem is somebody else is shaping it, informing it. It's not an organic spiritual evolution that we are all deciding upon with our own informed consent and free will. And if we don't start using our voices and putting these pieces together and laying them out very clearly for people to see what's going on here, it's it's worldwide initiation and genocide. And you're seeing it in a lot of different ways. But in order to make that Albert Pike thing come true, they have to have their holy war. What I can't figure out is how Buddhism is going to meld or mesh with Islam. I don't understand how that will happen, how that part of things is going to happen. And that might sound naive to you, but that part I don't get. So let's check this out. And then I'm going to go back and remind you of something else. So she sits in a royal east stance on a white moon disc, which reminds me of Muslims, and a multicolored lotus, which is typical. And you also have a lot of lotuses in Chinese and Asian worship. Her left foot raised and her extended right foot resting on a little lotus pedestal. Okay, so it's not exactly on her leg, though. It's not on her knee. Her right hand rests on her knee, joint in the Varada Mudra. Now, that's the hand motion. They believe that there is power in the ways that you hold your hands. Now, I've seen also people that speak Hebrew do this in the direction of the sky and make lightning. And I don't have an answer for it. Frequency, that type of thing. Somebody else would say, it's demons doing their bidding. I'm not here to crack on anyone's religion. That's not what this is about. The point is that we should have a choice. Nobody else should be preforming entire societal, for generations to come, the societal structure that we're all going to live in and we're supposed to participate in. And now they don't want to give us a choice about anything. And they're going to say everybody's in debt. Money isn't even real. Like, really, we're all just here trading our time. And what we should be focusing on, nobody is. And this is why you have this contention inside, because we're not living, rightly. So her hand rests, and it tells you the pose, representing that she gives emancipation to all beings. She holds her left hand in front of her heart in the gesture of offering sanctuary of protection, representing that she shields all creatures from the 8 major fears, which are fear of thieves, false beliefs, serpent, jealousy, fire, rage, lions, arrogance, elephants, ignorance, drowning, attachment, demons, doubt, and imprisonment, gluttony. I don't know if it's that one for sure. Now this one, headdress and jewelry. Now I will say all of the girls that did the Nicki Minaj challenge we just were looking at, they were all dressed to the nines. I mean, obviously they had their heels on, and some of them were holding wine glasses. Some of them were holding books. All of them had jewelry. They all looked like today's women, American women looked. Vasudhara is a significant and well-known female feminine deity in Buddhist culture. She is shown as an attractive woman in Buddhist art with a rich headdress and jewelry, similar to Lakshmi Devi in Hinduism. See, I thought Hinduism and Buddhism were like basically the same. Now I'm gonna have to look that up. She is revered as the bestower of wealth and prosperity. And like I said, I don't know all the different, there's so many different religions out there. Um, and that's why, like, I can see this charismatic type of, and even some people are out there calling it witchcraft, Christianity, which Christian witchcraft, I think they're calling it. So they're mixing like everything. And again, I'm not here to say which way is right or wrong. The point is we should each have a choice, and none of it should be shoved down anybody else's, throat or through the door of their house for that matter. So it says her followers are supposed to acquire 7 types of success through their practice: riches, quality, children, long life, happiness, praise, and knowledge. Vasudhara Vrata, which takes place once a year to honor this goddess for 2 days, is a popular celebration among Buddhists. So, well, Hinduism is very similar, though, isn't it? Now I'm wondering, is JD Vance, is he a Buddhist, or is his wife a Buddhist, or is she a Hindu? This one is for childbirth, but she specifically has a child with her and a mouse, of all things. So let's go back up here and check the top one again, the one that I originally thought it was. Red clad, no. And obviously none of them have 4 arms or 8 arms, so we're not getting that serious with it. Okay, so this is who I thought it was at first. There are a variety of forms she appears in. She is usually yellow or red, with 1, 3, or more faces, 6 to 12 arms, riding in a chariot drawn by. Okay, removing all. Nah, maybe not. We might have to check out the Hinduism one. And I don't think it's her, because you have to, it says, and a skull cup filled with blood in her lower to left hand. Now, see, some of the girls were holding wine or champagne, whatever they're calling it. Let's go up a little more. But regardless, they're going to bring all of these things together in this ecumenical age that we're living in. There's the trident. That might, like in today's day and age, a selected version as an embodiment of the divine feminine force, or Shakti, is known as Kumari or Kumari Devi, or the living goddess. The goddess, okay, these words. Taluju or Durja is said to inhabit the young woman. The term Kumari means princess in Sanskrit. That's pretty. A prepubescent girl chosen from the Shakya caste of the Nepalese Nawari Buddhist society is known as a Kumari. Some of the country's Hindus also venerate and worship the Kumari. A young girl. Okay, that's different. To my American sensibilities, I guess that's just different. Mandarava in Tantric Buddhism, or Vajrayana. Mandarava is revered as a female guru deity. In an extraordinary omen, Mandarava was born to a royal couple in Zehor, northern India. Her mother, okay, so they're saying these beings, interesting. So they're actually telling the stories, again, of the fallen ones, which the Bible refers to as evil spirits, and they do reincarnate or whatever. The problem being, is that what the system, like, that they have some of us like trapped in, or is that how God, like, allows us to be refined and putting us in different wine bottles when we need to, level up, so to speak? And again, I'm just asking questions here because obviously there's more to things than we've all been told. And so separation at this point, I mean, we have to understand we have a common enemy, and that is the ones who are trying to force us to live in a way in which we don't want to live, or to do things to our body that we don't want to do, to participate in things we don't want to participate in. And my goal is to shine a light on this and show you that these people might say that they're one thing, but they're deceiving you. And everything that they do is with a purpose. Every picture that they show us and upload and story that they tell us is with a purpose. And oftentimes it's not the purpose that they tell you. And oftentimes, for example, hospitals aren't there to help you. I used to think that H meant help, but that's where you go to be ended. I mean, let's be real. Most of us understand the opposite game at this point in time, and how they use that momentum and that energy. What we have to figure out is how to stop letting them use our own energy against ourselves, and understand that we have a common enemy, and try to always vibrate at a frequency of love, because that is the kingdom of heaven. And when you reside in that space, these things have no authority over you. But every time someone forgets that, or you forget it, or I forget it, whoops, there we go back down again. And then we can be overpowered by other sentient beings trying to use and siphon and exploit our energy and our essence. So, um, it says her mother was an incarnation of the female Buddha. That's interesting. So that they do believe in that equality or equity there. Buddha Pandaravasini, the consort of Amitabha, and her father was an incarnation of the Buddha's father, Sadhana. Mandarava is regarded as wisdom, knowledge, or awareness Dakini. Some of her several names and incarnations include the yogini Miruki. I can't say that. Adorned with human bone ornaments. That's different. During the time of Marpa, during the time of blah, 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 blah. It is believed. Oh, okay. So it's saying that she has been several different incarnations. That's interesting. Now, this is also who I thought it was at first, too, because she's the most common and it talks about the third eye here. So Naguma is one of the most important and well-known yoginis in Vajrayana instructors of 10th or 11th century India. Here we go. She is the Lady of Illusion and is depicted as a semi-ferocious dakini with a third eye, silver jewelry, and a skull-headed crown. Interesting. She is holding a cup in her left hand and a damora in her right. Okay, so we did have women who were holding the cup that were doing the challenge in the pictures we just saw. And so they do have jewelry on. She is the most common. So this is who I would kind of credit to because they're always doing their third eye symbolism. This is who I would think they're nodding to. But again, we'd probably have to look at their calendar of their holy days to figure out exactly which one. But this one seems like it's a good gamble. She is one of the two founders of some such SKV Buddhist school and Dakini Saskadini, Naguma, okay. She was recognized by various names during and after her lifetime. Interesting. So you have people like then J.D. Vance who are saying in front of us that they are one thing, that they are a Christian all-American boy, And I'll tell you that the one that looks exactly like him looked like the kid that I worked with here. Now, that church that I went to here was a charismatic Christian church. And the landlord I was telling you about was taken with the spirit one time, went running around the whole place saying how God was great and good to him, and he got all his money, and he was so thankful to God for all his money. And again, somebody had asked me after the service, will you come back? And I was like, that's not really my style. I don't think that's how we're supposed to worship God. And they said, you don't think he should be thankful for his money? And even then, before I had read the Bible, it's like, you get your reward here. Like, if that's all you're after is the material, then that's what you're going to get. The goal would be nice is to get both, to have a decent life here and a decent spirit both. But it seems like there is this tug of war even between the one who made us and another one. So I'm not here to tell you what to do or what to choose or anything like that. Point one thing on the front and there's something else. And these something else's look a lot like Santeria, voodoo, Creole voodoo, hoodoo, the charismatic movement and the yoga movement and the Kundalini spirit and their alleged Holy Spirit and the charismatic movement look and present very, very similar. And people even get lost in the Bible babble with their speaking in tongues. And that's not what that means. And again, you have people reading these books like they're about this life and they're not they are, but they aren't, right? Like it's so hard to explain what a parable is to somebody who doesn't already know. You compare something to something else to make it a little easier to understand or easier to swallow. And that's very hard for people today. But you're going to see this ecumenism come more to the forefront. You saw with the last pope, and I did videos on this as well, where they built 3 buildings on this site, and one of them was Muslim, the other one was Christian, but there was no iconography. You couldn't tell the 3 buildings apart, but the religions that were represented was Catholicism, Christianity, Muslim, Islam, and I think Buddhism. But I don't know how they're going to because Muslims believe in one God. It's an Abrahamic. Oh, and Judaism. I'm sorry, Judaism. Now, I'm not sure if they'll bring Buddhists into the fold and say, "Hey, we got your angels over here. This is who you're worshiping." I don't know how this is going to go, but we shouldn't allow ourselves to be divided, because the majority of us they want to get rid of. If you are not in their club, if you are not playing their game, if you're not in their family or bloodline, then they have no use for you. And again, they showed this in iPad Goat 2. Women of my age are going to be on the chopping block. This is why you're seeing so many women living in cars. Down with the system. I took that picture of that graffiti that's here in small town BFE, Northeast Ohio, is down with the system, CIS. That's white women of a certain age, Karens, I guess they're calling us. I don't know. So we have to, and it might sound sappy to people and be like, "Oh, you hippie, you dirty hippie," or whatever. Look, everything was co-opted. Every genuine article that we had has been hijacked, stolen, and or co-opted. They pass their money down because they end up doing this false reincarnation bit and taking people's vessels, usually without their informed consent. And it should stop. It should stop. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears. And this might get kind of, again, I'm going to entirely switch gears, but it's a Saturday. And this is something that I wanted to look at for a really, really long time. So I'm going to bring something up. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. Hold please while I try to open something and close something else. We'll see if it lets me. I hope it does. It's verifying me or something. Come on, man. Don't do this. Okay. Stop showing that. All right, so I want to show you something. Let me show you. I feel like Fire Marshal Bill when I say that. We're going to switch gears. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, because you're seeing that number 88 everywhere, which relates to the infinite, and it relates to time travel. And we're seeing the Trump administration or some part of the algorithm put a lot of like these 88s out there. Now, again, this is a topic that I've personally wanted to look at for a long time. And I want you to just take a look at this because I saw a meme today and it reminded me of this topic. And so and again, this is in the eye of current events and the concept, and this is why I was bringing up parables a little bit, the concept of ascension. And is that meant spiritually or physically or both? And how does one achieve that? Now, if you guys have heard any stories, feel free to add or leave links. I never ban links, but I need your help with this if you want to research it with me. And that's why right now we're just going to take a little peek at it because it's a Saturday night and I've been wanting to check it out for a long time. So this is Movie Forums. It says, "Hello everyone, I'm working on a project trying to find movies that have payphones with conversations." Now, here's the thing. Payphones have been used in movie tropes for a long time, as long as payphones have been around, but they are almost extinct now. And they're in the back of my mind. Again, we're going to end this video, and it's not going to be ended yet, but we're going to end this video where we might begin the next one when we do a Let's Explore video, depending on how this ends up. But payphones have always been used as conveyances for some type of quote unquote time travel or ascension, if you will, to a better timeline. And we know that there is this concept that the elites through television, through media, are trying to, and they will achieve it. Like I did that video I did the other day for a reason. Look at all the big YouTubers whose titles right now say, time is going faster, time is going faster, time is going faster. Ask yourself why. It's not organic. Sometimes things are organic and Holy Spirit led. That is not. And your discernment should show you that by who's bringing those messages, because they are, quote unquote, in the club. We are victims right now of a high en masse military psyop against, citizens. It's an information war. And most people have yet to even see that. And as we sit here, they're still committing genocide. And so we have to know how to read certain things and how to look at them and decode the information they're putting out there. So you're going to say, well, what do payphones have to do with time travel? And what does time travel have to do with the time we're in right now? Well, again, they're wanting to change times. They're wanting things to look like it is the end of the world. But again, the people who are pulling this off don't even understand how to read the book. They're not interpreting it right. And that is to our benefit. When you see them put out certain things that are about a physical, and I don't want to use this word, but there's no other word for it. It's a Zionistic approach. It's a fundamental approach. It's everything is carnal, everything is material, everything, and that's hedonistic. Like if you actually follow spirit, if you follow the Holy Spirit, the one who made all this, the creator, maker, fabricator of the universe, the stars, the heavens, and everything in between. If you follow that one, right, you should have discernment, and you should understand how to move in these times, and you should understand that that book isn't all about the physical. And some of the stuff in Revelation, it's called Apocalypse, revealing the revealing of Jesus Christ, written by John. It's his perspective of Christ's birth, of his ministry, of his death, and of the end days, most of which happened right then. Now, why are things still continuing? Well, I think that's us. I think somehow we've been tricked into consenting to doing this more than one time. I know that sounds weird to people. Probably like, what do you mean? If you don't feel like you've done all this already, maybe you haven't, but I really feel like I've already done this a couple of times. And I'm not doing it again. And yes, I'm a Christ follower. And what I'm talking about is not the reincarnation they've told you about. It doesn't start at birth and it doesn't end at quote unquote death, whatever that even means, because they're not building no new cemeteries and ain't burying nobody either. And I've been saying that since I started the original channel. Okay. So what do payphones have to do with all this? Well, payphones have been used in tropes and movies everywhere, but most recently, well, at least most famously, in a scene in The Matrix, where you see Trinity. That is their way, that is their connection to the real, right? To the real, to the reality, not the hologram fake steak. I want to eat steak in The Matrix. I really don't, because it tastes like garbage and I won't eat animals anymore. That's not even what they're giving people to eat. So payphones have been used as a trope for eons now. You also have Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. What is that about? You have their Jesus journey, right? Their hero's journey. They end up being these heroes. They ascend to a higher plane. Their music and their frequency brings people to a higher state of existence. And they can either go to the timeline where they ascend, or they can go to the timeline where they descend, putting them as low as the demonic ones, which gives them authority to overpower them, which is why you have to keep vibrating at a place of love. This is why they want you to think it's the end. They want you to be scared. They see people are in the state where their spirits are evolving. People are naturally now turning away from certain practices because they know they're wrong. People's bodies are physiologically changing and rejecting the garbage and the corpses that they've been feeding us. naturally because spirit is waking a lot of us up. Now we have to harness that. Now, when we talk about things like this, why do I talk about urban legends? And this has no importance, Jen, but it does. Because parables like this, stories like this, are what opens people's minds and give them that light bulb moment. Christ used parables. I use movies and songs. Philip K. Dick believed that there was artwork out there and books out there that the second you started reading them, it would reveal something to just you, because the teacher appears when the student is ready. And sometimes, yeah, that's in the pages of a book. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few of these movies, and if you know any that aren't here or aren't listed, let us know. Another popular show is Doctor Who. So let's see what this guy talks about. Now he's talking about specific scenes. So he's talking about phone booth. This one talks about the trailer for ATM. Not sure what that is. Now Rosemary's Baby, I had no idea that that had a phone booth scene in it. But I find that interesting, and this cat right here, this Donnie Darko guy, I've seen him comment before, and he leaves some, and again, comments are golden, guys. People leave information that stays for years. Do you know how many little breadcrumbs I've left in comments over the years? I've been leaving USA is within Jerusalem for like 8 years now, and finally there's other people, banking off of it, but whatever. Take it, run with it. Just let people know that, the illusion needs to stop. Nobody stays at the magic show forever, right? You have your fun and you move on, but you realize that that's not real. You want something real. So, Rosemary's Baby, I'm going to have to look up that scene because I don't know the script or the dialogue that goes along there. And that would be important because when I show you the urban legend that got me interested in phone booths, it might start to make sense as to why I'm looking at this. Okay. Now, phone booths, again, are believed to be a time travel conveyance. Now, follow me here. We've been talking about the Hopi who believe that we can decide between two possible timelines that are coming. And by timelines, they mean your personal reality. They don't mean that we're all going to split off and go into different dimensions. Not really. They mean different ways of life. And it's going to be very hard to coexist because already people are too physically close to one another. And if you add in all these microwave rays, people are losing their collective shit a little bit. Excuse the language, but it's apropos. So if it's a time travel conveyance and it allows you to choose which timeline that you want, and the elites or whoever creates the media has been throwing the number 88 at us. Now, what did Marty McFly and Doc use in Back to the Future? You're going to say, Jen, they used a DeLorean. No, they used a car. Well, sure they did, but how did they generate the energy? With a wire, with an actual landline wire. And I've been talking about this since the first channel as well. Digital is bad. You know why they gave us all digital, guys? You think of the big bad wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, dear. Oh, grandmother, what big teeth you have. The better to eat you with, dear. See past the illusion that they want you to buy before they eat you up, before they gobble you up. Sorry, I got uncomfortable there and I had to move and I got a little off track. I apologize. So if it is a conveyance, right? And you can make these decisions and they are putting all this out there as usual, they're giving us information, but it's like subliminal. None of it fits together in the way that it should that would be helpful to us. Now, why should we do this and why should we waste our time with this? Because obviously, if they're passing along messages, there's truth in here somewhere, right? And again, landlines, physical files, safes, wall safes, vaults in banks, the Vatican, all of those things are much better than digital. Because when things are digital, and hear me now, why did they give us all digital? To carry around with us, to put all our pictures on digital because it's easier to erase history that way. Because digitally, all you got to do is get it all wet, throw it all in the ocean. It's gone. Bye. They can rewrite history because digitally anything can be changed. And that's why Elon wanted access to those underground tunnels where he said, oh, this is archaic. They're keeping things like the Flintstones used to keep it. And they keep it there because it's temperature controlled. And physical paper needs to be kept at a certain temperature, guys. And everybody's cheering for this. Everybody wants this. And we've been saying since 2012 that this was coming and that they were going to make people beg for it. The only way that they could do this with the consent of the people without a full-blown uprising all at once would be to pinch certain groups at a time. That way people are like, well, that's not me. Well, that's not my family. Well, that's not my block. Oh, shit, they're in my house. Do you see how it works? Physical landlines were always used also by criminals because they're harder to tap. They're harder to listen in on. You see, they wanted all of our secrets. They wanted to be able to blackmail people and initiate them secretly and have everybody sell out to the invasion that probably already happened. The White House it's always been a front anyway, so it doesn't even matter at this point. But everything's going to change for us because we don't have anyone here who cares about us. Now you're going to say, how are American troops going to do this? They're not. Well, some of them already are. And because they have families and they'll do what they're told to keep their family safe. But en masse, it's probably UN troops, and they're probably already here in plain clothes. Some of them are probably pretending to be the homeless people. I mean, you got to put all this stuff together. Physical records are harder to destroy. And that's what I'd start looking at too, where some of these fires are happening. What is being done away with? What is being disappeared in this time? Because like I said, they knocked the Georgia Guidestones down because they've already enacted the plan. So they knocked them down because they're evidence. They can't have any remnants of what happened here. And just like in the Denver mural, you're going to see mostly children and most Gen Xers and baby boomers. Like, we're on the chopping block, man. Okay, so I didn't know about Rosemary's Baby. I'm going to look into that. And again, this is part fun, but it's part serious because they're putting a lot of the symbology out there. And I want to see, because oftentimes they use movie scripts and book scripts. And it also leads us to seeing that certain people consistently get things right, almost as if these authors and writers and directors are prophets of a kind. I just wonder if they actually exist or if it's been AI this whole time, like putting out stories and they say there's this writer's strike, but is it actually writers or is it just AI? How small is the population, really? Okay, so in The Matrix, we have that. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We know that one. Rain Man. Glengarry Glen Ross. Didn't see that one. Oh, American Werewolf in London. And he phones his parents to say goodbye. Now, oftentimes, too, you see people hide in them. If there's something happening, if it's a horror flick. And The Birds, the woman hid in one. And you also saw Superman, who would go in there, change, and come out different. Now, I was unsure in Bill and Ted if it was the Circle K that was like the magic or if it was the phone booth or both, because I go into my Circle K and sometimes the parking lot is packed and there's nobody in there. Like, legit, there's not even anyone behind the counter. I've got to wait. So it's very weird. True Romance has one. Never saw that one. Okay, so I'm going to pull up something else. So I want you guys to check this out. And again, there's a reason I'm doing this. And hopefully it'll all come together afterwards. There we go. Hold, please. Go. All right, so this one is Movie John, and you see there's Bill and Ted. But we're going to go to a specific urban legend after we just check out this list real quick. So you have the DeLoreans and phone booths, a cinematic guide to time travel. And I just wanted to see if they had a list of them. Now, again, Back to the Future, they used a landline. They used a physical landline to quote unquote ascend or to go to a different point in the timeline. Now, is that physically actually possible? Or did people just write this book about Trump ahead of time, the one about the time traveler? What I found interesting though is there's this story. And again, there's a lot of weird parts to like our reality and the media they give us. There's this urban legend. If you were around in the beginning of the internet, in the beginning of Reddit, in the beginning of YouTube, there was this guy called John Titor, and he called into a show, and he also um like communicated with a couple people back in the day, like 2012, 2014. I think 2014 might have been the last time anyone heard from him. Allegedly, the guy claimed to be a time traveler. What was messed up, though, was how he said he time traveled and he got stuck here because they needed a specific part of a computer. His name is John Titor. Well, whose initials are those? Donald J. Trump. And then you have this book about Baron Trump, who allegedly is this time traveling little whatever. I don't know, guys. It's a strange connection. But again, I'm going to bring us back to something else. Okay, the Terminator. Now, also, there's another one. I can't remember what it's called. It might be called Frequency, where a girl talks to her deceased father, like, but it's before she was even born, and he doesn't know, like, in her time he's dead. And they start talking back and forth on geez, what is it? An old hand dial. It's not a trucker's radio. It's bigger than a transistor radio, though. And she starts talking to him, and she's on a specific frequency. So, does frequency not just control how things vibrate, but does it also control the space in which you are vibrating? Does it like if we follow that time travel is theoretically possible? I don't know. I've got questions. I've got questions about this topic. Okay. So Stephen King's 2011 11/22/63 it's back blah blah blah. No, I was looking for. Okay, now why am I looking at this? Well, let me show you. Let me show you something. Again, it's an old urban legend. Some of you might never have heard of it, but I'm going to bring it up because it's really neat. And it just so happens to be in the desert. It used to be in Mojave Desert. Now, this is the most famous, I guess, or infamous urban legend, allegedly true, that I know about regarding phone booths. Now, the other ones are movie tropes and come, in movies. We know there are truths that they give us. So we just talked about the possibility of choosing your own timeline, how that can be literal, but how it's also figuratively the Hopi meant it in a figurative sense. Some will choose technology in a I can't even pronounce it. Technosrit? Technocrosity. I don't know. Whatever, the technology route, transhumanism. And some people will choose to go back to the old ways. Now, what we need is to go back to the old ways because all those data centers, guys, like if you want to know how America's going to catch fire, that's probably going to be it. And already we're running out of water. They've had some of these built and just, didn't inform us how many there were, or where they do as they please. And that's the problem with America. It's run like a corporation and not like a community, not like a bunch of little tribes and communities. All right, so this is fascinating. This is why I want to look at this topic. And it just so happens to be in the Mojave Desert. And we can check out the Mojave Desert in the next video when we do another explore this area or that area. But because it's in the desert, and it's about a phone booth. I wanted you to check it out, and you can do more research on your own. This story has been shared all over in Reddit and places like 4chan. since way back. So you could probably find different variations of it. Now, there was a fascinating documentary done by a radio DJ, and she was very nostalgic through the whole thing because she knows or knew that radio was dying, and she wanted to like do this really cool story. But I think they downplayed like what's going on here, because if you get into the phone company and you get into Bell Corporation and you understand that everything that Bell had was stolen from Tesla, and who do we have wanting to run the White House? What has he named all of his companies after? Again, put this together. I don't know that there is such a thing as nuclear in the way that they talk about. I think that those giant, they're supposed to, where Homer Simpson works, they're supposed to be nuclear reactors. I think they might have his coils hidden underneath of those, that they're just underneath. And again, the fear factor is the controlling chip that keeps everybody in line and paying for this lifestyle for all these other people who are allegedly better than us useless eaters, so they can sit around and not actually do any labor and pick on us, I guess, and make a mockery of us. Okay, so this is why I'm looking at this topic, because again, it gets very, very deep. So let's take a look so you can get a premise and an idea of what I'm talking about. And then you can, if you want, go get lost down this rabbit hole yourself as well. So, for several decades, a solitary booth stood in the middle. And now just keep what I said in mind, though, about Bell and where the technology came from. Because if it was Tesla's technology, all right, and we also have in Joshua Tree, I've done many videos on it, and now that girl that sells her plasma books, I think she did a video on it finally. Again, the ideas are getting out there. The butterfly effect is working. I don't want to write writing would be cool, but I'm not here to get your money. I'm here to like show you things about where you live and what's actually possible, right? And if you get your own temple to work in accordance with the things and the life around you, then all of these other negative elements, they can't even touch you. They don't have legal spiritual rights to do that. And I know that's hard for some people to grasp. This is why they want this holy war to take place, is because if they can get us to react, if they can get us to uprise, then they have legal rights to physically, do us harm. And that's why I shine a light on the spiritual aspect of this, because you also have elites who are trying to make you think that the Bible is happening, that the end time is right now. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but I'm saying they want it to look like that. And so they're putting things out to the public that are very literal. You can tell that most people don't even understand that much of the book is spiritual. Yes, it gives you daily living advice, and it's our history book, and it's a farming book, but a lot of it is about spirit and how you move from being a little child who operates in the body to who grows to the New Testament, who operates with your spirit. I hope that makes sense. I always lose people when I get spiritual, but I mean, that's kind of what the channel is. And spirituality is highly strange. Like, it's very strange. All right, so for several decades, a solitary booth stood in the middle of the Mojave National Preserve, miles away from civilization. Riddled by bullet holes and carpeted by broken glass, it looked like it had seen better days. Long before the proliferation of smartphones and social media, such edifices were the only way to call strangers and friends when you were far from home. It had been placed there in 1948. Think about that. Think about a payphone to service cinder miners. Where do you think they're going to put the debtor's prison now? Where do you think they're going to put people? Well, they want you mining the parts that make smartphones. People will still have phones, and if they don't have the phones, they will have the screens in their homes. There will be a way that they will still, trust me. So just keep all these things in mind. And this is why I go the routes I go to reveal certain things. But again, keep in mind, it's Bell Company too. It says no one knows exactly by whom. Nobody knows who put the phone there. All right. Now it gets revealed that it's like a Bell phone, but nobody knows who put it there allegedly. Its only neighbors were desert plants, telephone poles, and, if it was lucky, a passing coyote. Over all those years, it was silent, with only the wind breaking the quiet of the desolate landscape. But then one day it began ringing. Like many legends, though, this story begins not with an object, but with a man. Now, is it Colin Farrell? Colin Firth? Colin Firth. I don't know. One of them was in a movie about, I think it's called Phone Booth, and it's an action movie, but he can't leave the phone booth the whole time. All because as he's walking by, he answers the ringing payphone. Now, the urban legend in my day was if you hear one ringing, don't answer it. Just keep walking. And I don't know why people said that. But if you keep in mind, again, landlines, wires, prints of the air, right? Now, I'm here to say if you're going to use electricity or any of it at all, analog and landlines are better. That's what you want. You don't want to live in a virtual world because you still have a physical body to deal with that has needs. So it's both. People that say it's just physical or just spirit, like it's both. They have to work in some type of cooperation. So it says in May 97, Arizona resident Godfrey Doc Daniels. Okay, now that's just a weird coincidence. We're talking about time travel conveyances. We're talking about Back to the Future and Doc. And then we move to the actual phone booth, and this guy's name is Doc. Okay, whatever. Okay, and it's Mojave Desert, so it's in Arizona, of course, because that place is just so unique. Arizona resident Godfrey Doc Daniels was reading a zine magazine when he stumbled across a peculiar letter to the editor. A fellow known only as Mr. N had spotted a dot labeled telephone on a map of the Mojave, 15 miles from the nearest paved road. Intensely curious, Mr. N drove all the way out there, found the booth alongside a dirt path, and wrote down its number. Ooh, I need my gematria expert here. 760-733-9969. Oh, that's lovely. Sixes everywhere and a 33 to start it off, and the 77. That's special. Okay, sorry. Now burning with the same curiosity that had fueled this mysterious writer, Doc called the number several times a day over the course of a month, hoping to contact whoever might be on the other end. He even placed a sticky note on his bathroom mirror that asked him, "Have you called the Mojave Desert today?" Doc had begun to lose hope when one day, to his surprise, someone picked up. A cinder miner named Lauren. The two made small talk for several minutes, but in his excitement, Doc forgot to ask her exactly where the phone booth was located. Fortunately for us, he tracked it down with a friend, drove out to it amid a fierce lightning storm, and made calls to his friends. Now, again, this gets deep, so just you got to bear with me with the background and all that. So then those friends began making calls to each other from the Mojave phone booth. Thrilled by, excuse me, thrilled by the strange novelty of it all. However, Doc was not content to keep this secret confined to such a small social circle. It's wild how these people all get enchanted by this phone booth, but it is very strange that it's out there in the middle of the desert and nobody knows how it got there. Okay. He soon created a website that listed the booth's number, and suddenly people began making pilgrimages to this mechanical oasis. I told you this gets weird. Some of them called their own friends, but others simply wished to discover strangers across the globe. One man camped out among the Joshua trees. Okay. The Mojave isn't, I knew it was, but okay. I didn't look because I wasn't sure. I know. Sorry. Sometimes I'm a little dense and slow. But yeah, so this is why, if you followed me or my channels, either one of them, for any number of years, Joshua trees, Yeshua trees, I think. I think Joshua tree. Joshua is Yeshua in English. Joshua trees for a month and answered 500 phone calls. Another old man simply wanted to tell stories from his trucking days. Many of these voyagers even mailed Doc news clippings about a lone structure out in the desert that had become a worldwide sensation. Unfortunately, this early viral internet phenomenon was too good to last. Concerned about the dramatic increase in foot traffic and possible disturbances to wildlife, Bell Pacific and the National Park Service discussed tearing it down. In May of 2000, during one of the last phone calls that the booth received, Lauren's brother chatted with a man in England before going off to work in the cinder mine. When he left his sister's house the next day, the booth had been razed to the ground. Oh, it's so sad. And you'll see why I think it's, I mean, I know it's just a thing, but anything that brings people together and then is destroyed, it's kind of sad. It was just attracting too much unwanted attention in terms of litter and detritus and mementos and things that were being left on site, explained Dave Nichols, park archaeologist from Mojave National Preserve. I think that's ultimately why Bell was convinced to remove it, the phone booth. For a while, people still journeyed out to the concrete slab, proving just how powerful an idea the phone booth had become. One man even constructed a tombstone for the booth to mourn its untimely passing. However, the Park Service eventually removed the slab too and consistently thwarted attempts to add a commemorative plaque. Public lands are not there to allow individuals to put whatever they want out there, but I understand the sentiment, of course, added Nichols. Do you see how this works? Do you see what happens? But again, this isn't it. There's so much more to this story because people start allegedly talking to people in different times, not time zones, times. Now, some of these stories I'm still looking for, but we're not done here yet, so just hang with me. Still, despite the physical absence of the Mojave phone booth, its legend would not die. Several filmmakers paid tribute to it. Wow, I didn't know that, including in a 2006 feature starring Steve Guttenberg, Annabeth Gish, and Missy Pyle, appropriately called Mojave Phone Booth. Yet the rings had stopped until now. Oh, wow. On July 31st, 2019. Okay, now this is weird. This is new information to me because I haven't checked up on the story in a while. A benevolent hacker named Jared Morgan, aka Lucky225. There's that 22, and you know who Lucky is, don't you? Lucky Lucy. Lucy in the sky. Acquire the original number and set up a system where people can dial it and enter a conference call. You might be fortunate enough to find a stranger on the other end of the line, or you might find yourself talking into the void. Except this time, not even the coyotes are listening. Okay, so I didn't know that that happened in 2019, especially somebody named that. I find that I find that interesting. But again, why the interest? Well, because it was in Joshua Tree. Nobody knew how it got there, and I'd really like to know that. Now I'm going to bring up one more thing, if I can, if it allows me to here. Or maybe I should do this. Let's see. Just to show you how deep this topic can get. There you go. All right. Get rid of this one. All right. So the Mojave phone booth. Now here you see different people had their pictures taken there with it. And it's quite literally out there in the middle of nowhere. But what's the message here? They say it was for a cinder mine, but really? Is that what it was for? Like, what's the message? Because I don't get it. Usually that stuff, like you gotta, if it's out there, usually you gotta beg for services. Now, we read about the Hopi, and the Hopi were saying they didn't want any lines out there, remember? They wanted to live the old ways. They didn't want any utilities brought out there or installed on their land. I really am concerned about how they're doing throughout this time because again, their local office, when I looked it up, like there were vacancies and it said that they were vacant spots like for their board of directors and just for basic things like local directors for utilities or whatever. They just didn't have anyone filling those roles. So I'm concerned it looks like since the Rona hit, like with most people, some websites are just going quiet, and it's concerning. Okay, so Mojave phone booth, it tells you a little bit. Oh my gosh, somebody named themselves that. Doran of Snake River Conspiracy. an industrial rock group from the Bay Area, music from Toby Torres Duran and Mitchell J. Duran of Snake River Conspiracy. That's interesting. You see how also they use other things to drown out the noise, just like they did with Frozen, the movie, so that when you look up Frozen Disney, it doesn't come up with his cryogenically frozen head. Like they do that all the time. Every time, and this is why I tell you to search what is trending in the news. Look at what words they're using a lot, just like when they were using giant every other day. And Trump wants in the Smithsonian. Like, what are you going to do there? Are you going to ruin more history, rewrite history? Are you going to get them to tell us what's actually there in our real history? But, okay. Now, yeah, what's now known as the Mojave National Preserve now, but it wasn't always. Now, this is 7 years ago, and this is on Reddit. And again, like I said, this topic can get pretty deep, but with the time travel bit angle, with the way that it's used in the Matrix and how it is their connection to ascension or their escape route, their exit, right? And I'm the first to say that they denigrate the body. They don't want you to understand that you need your temple because they want it. They want to do what they want to do with it, especially if you've got DNA they're looking for or a bloodline they're looking for. Your body is important. So there must be a way that, and I think this is why we're told stories like Mary is the mother of Jesus. There must be a way that both ascend because Christ also needed his body. It was transmutated and it changed, right? That was the exit, was him sacrificing himself for those he loved. But I think you have to fast for the 40 days. You've got to empty yourself out so there's nothing alien within you. I hope that, again, those with ears are going to hear and those without are going to leave. Okay, so sometime in the 1960s, a lone phone booth was erected in the middle of the Mojave Desert, what's now known as the Mojave National Preserve. Its location was uncanny. All right, this is what I wanted to get to, the meat. Centered at the junction of two remote dirt roads. Okay, so this is another question I have. You're going to think this is weird maybe, but you know the story of the crossroads, right? Meet you at the crossroads, you won't be lonely. For the longest time, I thought that was about like your friends that had died or passed on, which it kind of was. But it's about selling your soul. It's about meeting the devil. I mean, what was that folk music, that blues guy that he went to the crossroads and then suddenly he could play guitar like nobody else's business? He talked about it. He like openly. And like if you want to do a deal, I'm not telling you to do it or how to do it. I don't know. I just know about like if there's an intersection and it goes four ways, for whatever reason, that's a crossroads, right? The cross, which is making me, I understand the cross, but like the way that it's mocked and certain, like I just, can't. Anyways, is it at a crossroad where is it a four-way? I thought that was just, it says two, centered at the junction of two remote dirt roads. It's got to be a crossroads. Nearly 10 miles from the closest paved one, the booth lived well into the 90s when it gained immense popularity from the internet in 1997. I guess you could say it was one of the first instances of something going viral. It was too. It was like a strange phenomenon. It didn't live long. And again, I'm the first to say things that trend usually aren't the way to go. But if you want to know certain things, if you want to know their occult things and what they're talking about, and listen, I'm not here to indoctrinate you or initiate you. I don't want initiated or indoctrinated. The point is to understand their messaging so that you can avoid any traps or snares or spiritual or physical um, misuse of your consent and of your free will, right? I think when you make a choice, you have to know you have a choice. You have to know the information, and this will, I don't tell you enough, I guess, is what I'm going to say. You'll never see me explain how to do rituals on here. The point is to know where you're at and be able to look around and understand what you're seeing so you can avoid it. I guess I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the booth lived well into the 90s when it gained immense popularity from the internet in 97. I guess you could say it was one of the first instances of something going viral. It didn't live long past the millennium, though. It was demolished without warning in the early 2000s. Now, this is weird. Again, if they get into the actual, and this is 7 years ago, which is no offense to anybody, but it's more reliable than more recent news, quote unquote, more recent stories, whatever. As for the reason it was built out in the actual middle of nowhere in the first place, well, some say the booth was a replacement for an old hand cranked magneto set up in the late 40s near the Sema cinder mine for use by the miners who lived in its vicinity. Others say it was used for more nefarious reasons to serve secret people doing secret things in secret places, and that when it got popular in the 90s, they had to shut it down for fear of someone finding out its true purpose. Hold, please, right there. Now, what secret purpose would it serve before cell phones, or at least before most people are aware of cell phones? But I'm pretty sure if you can pay to have a phone booth put in, then you would have. Follow me here. Again, this is going to get weird. Cell phones have been around for a lot longer than they tell you. Okay, and we've already talked about this. Some of our parents had them if they were Freemasons or Eastern Stars or any of the secret stuff. Most of them had them. All right? Black Mirror, divining. Like that's what is considered. That's why I don't do a lot like on mine actually. I'll watch media and I'll listen to content, but I'm not going to like do a lot on there. I don't ask a lot of questions. I do little research now, which is why you're seeing me on here, less and more in books. I have my head in books. So if these people had it so good that they could put in their own payphone, was it just for the use of talking, or was it something else entirely? This guy says he's not sure what to believe, but I have a story to tell. Before I begin, though, here's a picture of the booth. It was taken sometime in the 2000s, I think, before it was demolished for good. Is that going to mess everything up? Yeah. That one doesn't exist anymore, but y'all saw it a minute ago. Okay, so let's move on. So this picture, it's 1987, and I'm an unlucky college kid stuck in the middle of the desert. My 83 Honda Prelude is broken down again at the worst time. The sun was starting to set, painting the desolate landscape around me in thick swaths of color. Above me, the stars were popping out, staring down at me like too many eyes. Oh, that'd be amazing. There was no moon on account of it being new, so it was just me, the desert, and the stars. Sure, it was beautiful, but it did nothing to stymie my growing worry. See, I'm half Navajo on my mother's side and grew up hearing lots of lore, untold to outsiders, about the desert from Shimasani, my grandmother, about the things that live there, things that only come out at night, things that are bad. Being out there in the desert at night was darn terrifying to me, and as the sun set, I could feel the fear bubbling up in my gut, clouding my thoughts and making me paranoid and panicked. So there I was, broken down, hungry, hot, scared, and walking. Where to, I didn't know. I just knew I couldn't stay where I was, that the chances of someone driving by at this time of the day were few and far between. I didn't want to stay in my car until morning. I wanted to get going back to Arizona and back home. And in case you've forgotten, there were no smartphones or even cell phones in the 80s. I had to find a phone or someone who would take me to one. I had an old flashlight buried deep under the piles of trash and old clothes in the back seat of my Prelude, so I dug it out, locked my car, and began walking. I walked for almost an hour before I started to hear something else walking too. It sounded small. My flashlight only cut a thin beam of light into that darkness, but I spotted what was making that noise. It was a coyote. It looked hungry. No, starving. I flashed my light onto his little body, making its eyes glow, and tried shooing it away, flapping my arms around me like some idiot bird. I was terrified, and when the coyote didn't move, I decided to keep going, turning my back to it. This was a bad, bad idea. When a coyote crosses your path, it's best to stop your journey right there, turn back, hide, wait it out until the sun returns. As I walked, trying to maintain my composure, I could hear the coyote following me. Suddenly, there was a whistle like someone or something trying to get my attention. I chanced to glance back, and what I saw almost made me, myself. The coyote, it was standing on its hind legs. It was walking on its hind legs. Okay, so this guy is telling a story about an SW. You're not supposed to say that word out loud. So that's what he's talking about here, I believe. Okay, so basically a car interrupts. He thinks it's going to attack him, but a car interrupts. And a guy comes out. He says, despite the heat, he was wearing a primly pressed black suit, complete with a black tie and shiny black shoes. He cut an odd figure under stars against the desert. Excuse me. Who does that sound like, guys? Who does that sound like? Well, it could be, if he's at the crossroads now, it could be one of Satan's disguises. Although I know we each have our own Satan that we battle, one within and one without. So it could also be, what did he call himself? Nick, but he's also Old Scratch, which is also Satan or Sataniel. But it could also be what? One of the men in black. And I've done multiple videos on how, like, the quote unquote uniform that the men in black wear are the same as missionaries and the same as Mormon men, and how they all hang out in the desert and they show up after these abduction events. Alleged abduction. Sorry, I had to grab my water. Okay. So the man in black gets out and he says, break down. And the kid says, I stood up and opened my mouth to reply, but before I could, the phone behind me rang. And it rang loud, and it scared the crap out of me. The man seemed to chuckle at this, and he ran over. Sorry, it's for me, he said, pushing past me into the little booth so fast I nearly fell out. Hello? He looked over his shoulder at me, checking if I was listening, and I was. He didn't seem to mind. Hello? Speaking? No, no problems. I'm on its trail. Yes, sir, I can contain it. When? Now? Really? All right. Uh-huh. Nope, no one else can hear me. Go for lunch in 3, 2, 1. The ground beneath me started to shake. It was subtle at first, nothing more than a slight tremor. The tremor crescendoed into what I can only call a small earthquake. It lasted for no more than a minute until finally there was a booming noise. Then it was gone, like it never even happened in the first place. The man hung up the phone, sighed, and turned back to me. Seen anything spooky tonight? He asked. And from the way he said it, I couldn't tell if he was joking or not. I decided not to say anything. The man considered me for a moment and then said, come on, I'll give you a ride. And he said, well, are you coming or not? Okay, so he's talking about, he thinks it was a man in black because he ran into a skinwalker. Now, it looks like it is a true story he's telling here. He doesn't want to say anything. He doesn't want to know what it is. Yeah, because you're not really supposed to say the name, although I just said it. Sorry. The location of the phone booth was also pretty strange. It really was out in the middle of nowhere. I didn't see any houses or other structures nearby. I have no earthly idea where that man came from or how he knew someone would call him or why he would want someone to call him out there. So let's see if anything comes up, because again, they removed it. I want to see if it's close to any of those mystical locations that we've been checking out that are down there in that area of our nation. It says it was located in the Mojave Desert. It was situated at the intersection of two dirt roads about 12 miles. Can we see a map? Can you just show us a map? Now, the phone booth was originally installed in the 60s to serve miners, allegedly. But it was removed by Pacific Bell, but Pacific Bell never said anything about putting it out there. Now, if you do a deep dive into Pacific Bell, just like the same with book publishers, it gets wild, because everything that they name, once again, just like we saw with the CDC and the medical journals, everything that they name is all very occultic, very Greek god, Romanesque, Viking, like all these different pantheons of little g god worship, and we've talked about, we know all that. Okay, so here's the actual, oh wow, it gives the longitude and latitude. So here's the actual location, but can I see it in a map? Map. Between Baker and Vegas at the turnoff for Sima, surrounded by Joshua trees in the middle of the Mojave National Preserve. Show it to me, the whole thing. The whole thing. Thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate your company. Even if that's just one of you or none of you. Somebody eventually will watch. And you're going to be like, well, why'd you put these two topics together? Because neither one was long enough to really do its own video. And I found a really cool book that I was thinking of showing you at the end of this, but I might just share it on the community page that we're going to get into as well. Okay, so why do they look different? Why are you showing me? That's not even the same. Hold up. It's a true story. And if it's not a true story, why put out a fake story like this? Because why? Is this just bad writing, bad journalism once again? Because this is very clearly, I'm waiting, thank you very much. I said wait. Very clearly not the same phone booth as this one. And look at the wires. Like, that's the only thing out there. Legit, nothing else is out there. Ugh. Let's see if anything else shows up over here. See, now that one and that one's the same. Preserve our desert for all to enjoy. Dude, it's two different. So you mean they were actually they were changed over? Like, did they modernize it? Or is this one in a different place? Because that's Joshua Tree. Mystery is afoot, Watson. I smell a mystery. All right. We're going to take that at face value just for a second. Mojave phone booth. Okay, so this is where it was. Now, what I find interesting, and I might search out real quick on the phone, is was the Mojave National Preserve created around the phone booth? Because the phone booth, when we read the last article, it said what is now known as the Mojave National Preserve. So, was it not a national preserve when the phone booth was active? I want to know the answer to that question. Hold, please. I'm going to look it up on the phone while we're looking at this. Let's check it out. When was Mojave National Preserve established? 94. And what did they say? This got internet fame in 97, or they tore it down in 97? That's crazy. Ray McPadden. They actually have a superintendent of the National Preserve in Castle Mountains. That's crazy. Like, how can you have a manager of a place? Like, I don't get it. I can understand caretaker, but like the rest of it, I don't get. Okay. So that's fascinating. So they literally did do that. I gotta quit saying that because I see it's like a thing now. So they actually did this. They put a national preserve around the telephone, which is interesting. And I find it very strange that we've got two different phones here. Which one is the correct one? If you're saying there's nothing else for miles, like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Am I the only one? I don't understand. Okay, so this is the guy when he discovered it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, 97, this was the best thing the internet had ever seen. So in 94, they put a preserve around it. So let's assume the other kid, the story we just read was true. If there are things creeping around in the desert and there are special guys that have to watch their backs, but they would have the technology. They would have the hidden technology like the cell phones and all that. But even they know landline is better. I'm really curious now. Like, I want to know because there's also a legend that you can capture certain beings. Like, because when you take a picture, what's the old original lingo? You're capturing an image, right? Capturing. So you're catching something. And I've told you this before. When they got everybody off of analog and moved to digital, you had more instances of paranormal activity was ramped up. More exorcisms are being called for. More exorcists are needed, they say, allegedly. So again, you have these problems arise from certain frequencies, especially when you're talking about the digital. And if you actually could harness or capture something in a landline, in an analog frequency, that makes me really curious about why it's out there in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so everybody went to visit it in 97. It became a phenomenon. It has 7733 and then a bunch of nines and sixes. What was 3, 6, and 9? That was Tesla's number, right? 3, 6, 9. I mean, they're there, but there's also sevens and all that. All right, anyways, moving on. See, now there's still not 99% invisible. Okay, so I'm going to look more into that. But I wanted to let you guys know about that because that's an area that I don't think we actually looked at was the Mojave Desert. And because we've been talking about Joshua Tree, I thought that that was a fascinating little addition to that. And I'd like to know what you think of that. Do you think that, like, why would you put a phone booth out in the middle of nowhere? I'm going to keep researching that, but I'm going to share also on the community tab about this book that I found mentioned in a video that I shared. Now, some of the channels I share are like gold. This other channel has been working for years on multiple channels, and I think I was subbed years ago on my main channel. Anyways, I found it again, and I shared a documentary that you should really go look. It's called Pirate DNA or DNA Pirates or something like that. They mention a book in the middle of the documentary that I downloaded because it was a free download, and it's about healing from frequencies, but it also talks about what the plan was and is. And it was written and released, well, it was released in 2018. And the man in this documentary, he knows what he's talking about. So I would point you to go check out that documentary that I just shared this evening. It is definitely worth the watch. I'm about halfway through with it, and I'll probably watch it before I go the rest before I go to bed. Um, but the book he mentions, we're going to take a look at that as well. And I know this was a very laid back, chill stream, but there's a reason that I talk about the things that I talk about. And there's a reason we're led in the directions we're led. So I just kind of I go with it as long as it's nothing wicked or evil. And again, the idea is not to indoctrinate anybody, and it's not to indoctrinate myself either. It's to make us aware of what's going on around us and how people are trying to fool us with words and even sometimes fake divisive topics that we don't even need to argue about. Like, there's no reason to argue about them because oftentimes we're on the same page, but they've changed our languages, so we don't even know we're on the same page. All right, so you hang in there. We'll talk again soon. Thank you guys for always watching. Oh, and I also figured out how they made crop circles. I'm going to do a video on that, but it's going to be super short. Like, it should be a short. If I can figure out how to do the green screen background, that's how I'll release that. But if you're interested in crop circles and want to know how they're made, check that out. We'll talk soon.